art is supposed to be about sharing your perspective. Growing up in the Bronx and moving around from place to place, from Schenectady to Albany to even Buffalo, I noticed that all these environments are very different from the places that I grew up in. And oftentimes I'm seeing that they have a lot of opportunities that weren't afforded for me and my family, me and my brothers, me and my close friends. A lot of times there's disparities between the two. And I think that that often falls into the work. I started drawing since I was like 4, and I've never put down a crayon since. In fact, I picked up a pen, pencil, marker, spray paint, everything I could find. I was walking around the Bronx one day, waiting for my brother to get out of work, and while waiting, I was just like, I could be drawing right now. So I saw some cardboard and huge stacks of cardboard just laying around the street, and I just grabbed one and I started drawing on it. And it just felt good to draw and then like give that piece to somebody. I was really attracted to manga more than anything, which is like a Japanese form of comic books. Just the content that manga had spoke to me more than the content of comics, of American comics. A lot of American comics, they kind of had this trope of like the really strong man or like the damsel in distress and stuff like that. But manga, I felt like it kept it closer to this reality of living. There's a lot of characters that were really open with like them feeling lonely or them feeling a sense of abandonment or even just talking about destruction of their home, things that felt like very close to home for me. I felt like that's what drew me to manga a little bit more, and is why it started becoming a strong influence in my work. It gave me a look of what it looks like to translate pain into a story that can be told and felt. At first, my work was just about creating, just having fun, and just drawing, and just kind of getting lost in my own sketchbook. But the further I got into my own sketchbook, and the more problems happened outside my sketchbook, the more I found that the problems outside of that started dipping into the sketchbook itself. A lot of times, my artwork is done with a goal of introspection and a goal of trying to sort of probe thought and like track thought as like a sort of visual form of mindfulness and touch and go meditation. Now I'm doing a lot of artwork based on psychological studies, and so like taking the studies found by like Freud, Joseph Breyer, Lacan, and even France Fanon, who was a West Indian psychologist. All of these studies, they speak about the early happenings of thought, the early happenings of becoming like an actual human being, what it means to understand language, what it means to separate yourself from one person and another, and the psychological happenings that happen with that, but also examining those while looking at places like the Bronx and how that differs from places like Albany or places like the suburbs in Buffalo. How do our upbringings differ in that respect, and how is that reflected through the art? And in what ways can art even help us to not just understanding each other, but understanding ourselves on a deeper level and fixing the communities overall to ways that are more healthy for us subconsciously? I can kind of get lost in the marks that are made through pen because it has such a range to it, from going like a very light mark where you could barely see it, becomes very translucent, to like a very dark and like bold mark where it's just undeniable to like just stare at it for a while. I find that ink has this very mystical quality to it, and being able to just create something out of it often feels like magic. I often go between that and the boldness of marker, because I feel like that's a little bit harder to control with the ranges of it, but just being as dark it is, as bold as it is, it demands attention in a certain way that even I can't pull myself away from. Coming to college in general, it was always a means to an end. Like, I wanted to get out of the Bronx. Coming to college in a way was like me applying to an artist residency. I needed the space to create, I needed the space to think, and I needed the space to just not worry about things around me, not to have to look over my back. A lot of me and my friends, we were here from like the morning time to like 1 o'clock at night, just in the studio creating. And I think that just being surrounded by other creatives like that is another thing that got me to where I'm at now, and just helped me move my time at Sage past it ultimately. For anybody who's trying to sort of push on and make the work that they want to make, or make the work that they feel that they need to make, it should just keep going. Don't let anybody stop you. Don't let anybody form an obstacle against you that stops you. You just continue to prosper. You continue to show them like what's in your spirit, what's in your vision, what's in your mind, and you don't stop.